Good morning. Welcome back for another Read Aloud of Flush. As we're wrapping up the story, we're just about to figure out how it's going to end. We got to see if Dusty Muleman is going to get his comeuppance. We've got our 24 karat gold blanket. This blanket is literally made out of gold. It's very heavy. We've got a special bright bunny with some really interesting ears and shoes. And we've got Diego, who is ready to figure out how the story is going to end. So let's get right to it. Chapter 18. The food coloring didn't show up as brightly in the sea as it did in the store bottles, but you could definitely see it. As Abby and I had hoped, the current and the wind were in our favor, transporting the dye down the shoreline in a shiny stream from Dusty Muleman's basin. Dad and Grandpa Bobby stood together on the Thunder Beach, admiring the telltale trail of fuchsia. "I'm impressed," my father said. "This was your idea, Noah?" "Abby's too," I said. "And all I did was pick out the color," she said. "That's not true. We were 50-50 partners the whole way." My grandfather slapped a hand on Dad's shoulder. "Payne, you and Donna really lucked out with these youngsters. They're true champs, both of them." Most of the time, Dad said, shooting us sideways glances. Most of the time. "You got to admit," said Grandpa Bobby, "this is a whole lot neater than sinking the man's boat." "Yeah, Pop. Thanks for bringing that up." I know he's making fun of his dad's idea. Mom kept staring at the purplish slick in the shallows. Even though she was wearing sunglasses, we could tell she was upset. Real upset. At first I thought she was mad at Abby and me, but it turned out that she wasn't. She was mad at Dusty Muleman. "Unbelievable," she exploded finally. "How can a person do something like that? A father, for heaven's sake. All the kids on the island go swimming here, and he's poisoning the place with all this. Poop?" Abby said. "Whatever," my mother fumed. "The man ought to be in jail. He's a menace to the public health." Dad has a long list of people that says he should be locked up for one thing or another. But this was the first time I'd ever heard my mom say that about anybody other than my dad. My grandfather also was angered by what he saw, although he tried not to show it. "Jail's too good for the lowlife who did this," he said evenly, "but it's a good start." Abby and I looked uneasily at each other. We'd seen Grandpa Bobby in action before. "Payne, you remember the big muttonfish I caught here?" he asked my father. "The 15-pounder? "You bet I remember. Only it was 14 pounds, Dad. 14. "Sure. Anyways, it was one great catch," said Grandpa Bobby. "That was back before they dropped fish traps all over the reefs. Back before certain creeps started dumping their poop in the sea." There was a rumbly edge to his voice, like he was struggling to keep his temper under control. Mom said, "Don't worry, Pop. Someday Dusty Muleman will get exactly what he deserves. People like him always do." This was her famous "what goes around comes around" theory. My grandfather obviously didn't buy it, although he was too polite to say so. He picked up a branch of driftwood and swept it back and forth through the stained water. "Somebody probably ought to notify the Coast Guard while the tide's right," he said. I didn't mention the phone call I'd made earlier at the house. As if on cue, a sound like a rolling drumbeat rose from the north. Abby said, "Listen, guys, you hear that?" The walk, the walk, the walk. We all turned and looked up. "Over there," Dad said. "He has eyes like an osprey." The rest of us couldn't see a thing. After a while, my grandpa spotted it too and pointed where to look. At first, it was just a small fuzzy dot on the wide open blueness of the sky. But as the dot grew larger, it turned blaze orange and took on the shape of a helicopter. The drumbeat of the rotors became a loud, high-pitched whine as the chopper circled lower. On its belly, we could plainly read the words Coast Guard. A side door rolled open and a man in dark jumpsuit leaned out. He was wearing a white crash helmet and aiming a camera down at the water, taking video of our amazing fuchsia river. We waved at the Coast Guard man, but he was too busy to wave back. The helicopter gradually began to move, following the colorful current of evidence all the way up the beach, all the way to the marina, where the Coral Queen was moored. There, the chopper hovered for a long time. Dusty Muleman was officially busted. Abby whooped, and Grandpa Bobby clapped, and I pumped a fist in the air. We headed home, feeling hopeful and happy, though Dad and Mom weren't quite happy enough to forget about me and Abby sneaking out the night before. "By the way, you're both grounded," Mom informed us in the car. I signaled for Abby to stay cool, but she ignored me. Grounded? For how long? She asked indignantly. Indefinitely, Dad said, which was better than setting an exact number of days or weeks. From experience, I knew that an indefinite grounding could be negotiated favorably, if only Abby would stop whining. It's not fair, my sister said. It's not fair, my sister said. In fact, it really stinks. Watch your mouth, young lady, Mom warned. But we just saved Thunder Beach. Don't we get bonus points for that? Grandpa Bobby said, Abby, darling, it won't be so bad. Anyways, it's probably a smart idea for you and your brother to lay low for a while. And he was the family expert on laying low. I waited until we got back to the house before asking my parents to delay the starting date of our grounding. Just until tomorrow, I said. Please? My father eyed me suspiciously. Why? You got big plans for the afternoon? I need to go thank Shelley. Me too, said Abby, scooting to my side. Dad left the decision to Mom, who drilled us with one of her I'm not kidding stares. You got exactly 1 hour, not a minute more, she said. We dashed for our bikes, Abby calling over her shoulder, Grandpa Bobby, you better be here when we get back. And there's a pause in the story. That's great. Seems like Dusty Muleman's getting busted. My mother and father honestly care about each other, but they argue about plenty of stuff. Sometimes it seems silly to me and Abby, but other times it's really heavy. For instance, Mom was 99% serious about the divorce, and if Dad hadn't come home from jail or got his act together, it'd have been done. I totally understood why she felt like that, and at the same time I could see the point he was trying to make by sinking the Coral Queen. But even my parents are fighting. They don't actually fight. It's only sharp words back and forth, not fists, not blunt objects. Unfortunately, some people really get carried away, and my sister and I were reminded when we showed up at Shelley's trailer. She was sitting on the steps, gazing off into the distance. She wore black jeans and a gray Gap t-shirt and a blue trucker's cap turned backwards. In one hand, she had a sweaty bottle of soda, and in the other was a rake. Some of the tines were snapped off of it, and others were bent at sharp angles. It wasn't the sort of damage caused by normal, everyday gardening. What's wrong? I asked. Love is a strange deal, she said. You want to come in? It's an awful mess, I'll be honest. We'll help you clean up, Abby offered. What kind of mess? I asked. Like nothing you ever saw before, Shelley said. Think you can handle it? After seeing the condition of the rake, I wasn't so sure. To stall, I asked her what happened on the Coral Queen after I jumped overboard. She laughed. Nobody heard a thing because the band was so loud. Everybody just kept gambling. The customers who saw you run past figured you belonged to one of the crew. What about the nasty old lady who tried to break into the bathroom? Oh, her? Free stack of chips, and she was back at the blackjack table, happy as a clam, Shelley reported. Speaking of bathrooms, I had to make like 7 trips before I got rid of all that purple goo. Every time I get settled nice and cozy, somebody start banging on the door saying they couldn't wait. My wrist hurt from flushing so much. But our plan worked, Abby piped eagerly. Did you hear the helicopter fly over? That was the Coast Guard. We saw them, taking video of the stain water. No kidding. Shelley looked pleased. She stood up, spinning the rake like a cheerleader's baton. Did Dusty say anything after the casino closed? I asked. Nah, he was a total basket case, Shelley said. There was some big fight on the docks, and Luno got his butt seriously kicked. That's at least what I heard. One of the bouncers drove him to the hospital, and then the cops showed up, asking what happened. But by then, Dusty already split. The crew didn't know any different. So they waited until all the people were gone and pumped the holding tank straight into the basin, same as usual. I told Shelley she'd done a great job. Thanks for emptying the liquor crate so I had a place to hide, and for sneaking me into the lady's head, and most of all, for risking your neck just to help us out. Yeah, you did awesome, said Abby. But what about Dusty's secret spy at the Coast Guard station? How'd you fix it so he wasn't around this morning when Noah called in about the Coral Queen? Shelley propped the rake on one shoulder like a rifle. Come on in, she said. But like I said, it's not a pretty picture. She wasn't kidding. Inside the trailer looked like a small bomb had exploded. Broken lamps, overturned furniture, dents, and holes in the fake wood paneling. 2 rumpled men lay face down, one on the gross shag carpet and one on the gross, moldy sofa. We couldn't see their faces, so it was hard to tell if they were dead or alive. The one on the floor was sopping wet and striped green with slime from the aquarium, which laid on its side, empty and cracked. Shelley used the rake handle to poke the unconscious man on the sofa. You asked about Mr. Billy Babcock? Well, here he is. Billy Babcock made a low, snuffling sound, but he didn't move. What did you do to him? Abby asked. Nothing he didn't want done, Shelley replied with a snort. He spent about 2 hours yakking at my bar last night. I figured the only way to guarantee that he wouldn't be at work this morning was to bring him home and, well, get him sick. Gotcha. I cut in, not wanting Abby to hear the details of how he got sick. Well, that's cool, Noah, watching out for your little sister, Shelley said, but don't worry. I was perfect. I invited Billy over for one of my high-octane cocktails, maybe 2, and all he did was hold my hand on the couch till he got tired of telling me how gorgeous I was and how wonderful I was, which was nice to hear. Then he keeled over and went nighty-night, and has been asleep ever since. Okay, so who's the other guy? I pointed at the soggy heap on the floor. You don't recognize him? Shelley chuckled again. Using the business end of the rake, she snagged the man's ooze-covered shirt and rolled him onto his back. When I saw that pasty, sunken face, I was completely blown away. Well, who is it? My sister asked impatiently. That's lice peeking, I said. In person. Shelley unhooked the rake from her shirt. I told you, love's a strange deal. Is he alive? Abby asked. More or less, Shelley replied. You guys want a soda? And there's a pause here. So, it looks like Lice wasn't dead, which is good. He must have just got scared and run off. Not wanting any trouble. So that's good. We sat at the dinette and listened to her story. It was a good one. After my father had gone to jail and started spouting off about the Coral Queen, Dusty Muleman had gotten nervous. He made a list of everyone besides your dad who knew the truth about the pollution scam, and he sent Luno to warn each person to keep quiet, or else. The goon hadn't murdered Lice Peking, as Shelley had thought, but he had scared the bodily fluids out of him. When Luno had shown up at the trailer, Lice naturally assumed that Dusty had found out about his secret deal with Dad, the bonefish skiff in exchange for Lice's testimony. So, as soon as Luno left, Lice swiped Shelley's Jeep and drove full speed for mainland. True to form, he forgot to fill the gas tank. When it was empty, he simply parked the truck and took off. But what about the bloodstains on the seat? I asked. Shelley shook her head sheepishly. Ketchup, she said. The slob was pigging out on Big Macs and fries for 40 miles. Abby said, why'd he come back? Did he run out of money or something? You're a very sharp young lady. Yeah, he ran out of money, Shelley said. But that's not why he came back to the Keys. See, he missed me. Deep down in his heart, he truly missed me. I cringed when my sister asked, how can you possibly believe that? Because the man knew for a fact what would happen if I ever laid eyes on him again. He knew I'd whoop him like the sorry, no-good person he is. Yet, he came back anyway. If that ain't true love, it's close enough for me, she said. The timing of Lice Peeking's return couldn't have been worse. It was past 3 in the morning when he'd flung open the trailer door, only to find his cherished Shelley reading an astrology magazine on the couch, with a snoozing Billy Babcock stretched out beside her. He got jealous and jumped on Billy, kicking and punching and scratching. And that was when Shelley had run to the tool shed. Being whacked with a rake seemed to work miracles on Lice Peeking's attitude. He dropped to one knee, told Shelley he adored her, blubbered he was sorry for all the rotten deals that he'd ever done, even promised to pay back the $186 that he took, plus the towing charges for the Jeep, Shelley said. I'll never see a nickel, for sure, but it was still a nice sentiment. It was a nice offer. I told Lice to quit begging and get off the floor, and that's when the fool grabbed the aquarium to start to pull himself up. The whole tank tipped over on top of him, all 50 gallons, and off to dreamland he went, knocking himself out. It wouldn't have been a huge shock to learn that Shelley had purposely dumped the grungy aquarium on Lice Peking, but I took her word that it was an accident. Anything was possible. What about the fish? Abby asked worriedly. There was only one left, the loneliest, most pitiful guppy you ever saw. So I put him in the bathtub, Shelley said. And him? I nodded toward Billy Babcock. Slept through all the fun, believe it or not. Shelley nudged him again with the rake handle. Once he wakes up, I'll clue him in on what happened. Otherwise, he'll be curious about all those fresh bruises and fingernail marks. I went over to take a close look at Lice Peking. The toppling aquarium had left a plum-sized knot on his forehead. His t-shirt showed several rows of small holes where Shelley's rake had dug in, but he seemed to be feeling no pain. He snored peacefully, blowing snot bubbles from his nose. Ew. Abby said to Shelley, what a loser. I can't believe you're taking him back. That's none of your business, but let's say it was. Let's say you were my mother and you were upset about me hanging out with this kind of person. I tell you that I'm a big girl with my eyes wide open. I've made some mistakes of my own, but I was always grateful for a second chance. And trust me, Shelley, Shelley said, that's all life peaking is getting. A second chance. Look here, he even went and bought me some new earrings. Shelley pulled back her thick hair to reveal 5 small, shiny hoops in her left ear. Abby admitted that they looked kind of cool. Yeah, they do. Shelley turned to me. Noah, what does your daddy think is going to happen to Dusty Muleman? He says the Coast Guard will probably shut down the Coral Queen immediately. He says they won't throw Dusty in jail because they could make him pay a fortune in fines by keeping him out. But if the boat's out of business, then you're out of a job, Abby said to Shelley. What are you going to do? Don't worry about me. Being a bartender in the Keys is like being a roofer in a hurricane season. You never run out of work for long. The trailer was such a disaster that sweeping and mopping seemed kind of like a waste of energy. It should have been towed straight to the county dump, but it was Shelley's only home, so I said, we're going to help you fix up this place. You'll do no such thing. She steered us toward the door. I got all the help I need. These 2 turkeys wake up, they're going to be cleaning. She gave each of us a quick hug and then closed the door. Abby checked her watch, then announced that we had exactly 11 minutes to get home, or else we'd be grounded until the next century. So we took off down the old road as fast as we could. Ahead, I spotted 2 familiar figures, one running and the other pedaling a beach cruiser beside him. Abby noticed them too. Noah, don't stop, she said through clenched teeth, no matter what. And I wouldn't have stopped, either, if only Jasper Jr. hadn't called me an exceptionally insulting name as we flew past. Next thing I knew, I felt myself hit the brakes. It was a pure reflex. After all that had happened, I just couldn't pass the opportunity to brighten Jasper Jr.'s day. Are you completely whacked? Abby whispered. Keep going, I told her firmly. I'm not kidding. And she knew it too. She kept riding. I spun the bike around and waited. Jasper Jr. was on the beach cruiser, and Bull was jogging to keep up, beat-faced and sweating buckets. Where you guys going? I asked pleasantly. To the marina, maybe? To have a chat with the Coast Guard? Jasper Jr. hopped off the bike and let it fall. I could see that he was boiling mad. He stalked up to me and grabbed my handlebars and wrenched them back and forth, trying to knock me off. Somehow I kept my balance, and I also kept a smile on my face. It was driving him nuts. Right, dork brain, let's do it, Jasper Jr. snarled. You and me, right now. Jasper Jr., don't start nothing, Bull said, bending over to catch his breath. Very calmly, I climbed off my bicycle and put down the kickstand. Then I stepped up to Jasper Jr. and got right in his face. When he reached up to shove me, I knocked his arms away. He seemed pretty amazed that I did that. I couldn't stop smiling. Being afraid of those 2 boneheads seemed so ridiculous. I'd rather have taken another punch in the eye than run away. Come on, dude, Bull said to Jasper Jr. Let's go. Oh, no you don't. Not yet, I said. He still owes me an apology. In fact, he owes me 2. One after what he just called me, and one from the other day. You're so dead, Jasper Jr. snapped. So dead. The way he was moving, his rat-like mouth, I knew he was working up another loogie to spit on me. I reached under my shirt and pulled out the chain that was hanging from my neck, the ancient gold coin dangling back and forth, glinting in the sunlight. From the bug-eyed way that Jasper Jr. and Bull were staring, I knew they'd recognize the coin as the one that Grandpa Bobby was wearing the day in the woods. Bull took a shaky half-step backward, and Jasper Jr. stood there gnawing on his lower lip, which I took as a sign of possible brain activity. Neither of them wanted to tangle with the crazy old pirate again. I'm still waiting for my apologies, I said. Bull poked Jasper Jr. Get it over with, dude. Then Bull picked up the beach cruiser and hopped on and pedaled away. Jasper Jr. shifted uneasily as he watched his friend ride off. Now it was just me and him. I'd like to think he would have been nervous if I hadn't shown him the coin, but probably not. I think the coin is what made him nervous. He turned his knobby walnut head and hopped on the pavement. I'm sorry, Underwood, he mumbled, barely loud enough for me to hear. 1 down, I said, and 1 more to go. It was obviously painful, but Jasper Jr. forced himself to say it again. I'm sorry, okay? S-O-R-Y. Close enough. I stepped back and waved him down the road. Jasper Jr. gave me one of his trademark sneers and took off running. Have a nice day, I called, though I knew probably it wouldn't turn out that way for the Muleman family because of the Coast Guard. Alright, so that's where chapter 18 ends. So it's nice to hear that Lice Peaking's not dead, Though he doesn't seem like that great of a decision maker, kind of makes some bad choices. Maybe Shelley can straighten him out. But he's not dead, and Dusty Millman looks like he's going to get busted because all that dumping he did has shown a path back to his boat. So we'll find out next time what happens. See you then.